Hi, everybody.
Okay, are you there?
There, they counted down. It counted down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it like stayed on 1 for a while. So
yeah, and you froze. So I was kind of like, oh. Hi.
Hi. So this is our show with called Rising Soul, and what we do is we really talk about how to integrate spiritual concepts into life, into human life. Yep. And today we're going to be talking about chronic illness, and that could be chronic physical illness. It could be chronic mental illness. Please say hello if you're jumping on. Let us know where you're tuning in from, and share this out to anyone that you know that has a chronic illness, to anyone that you know that might have a chronic mental illness, because both of us have experienced this situation and are continuing to, I guess, experience how this kind of thing unfolds over the course of time. And so we really wanted to bring this to you today because it's a topic that is gaining more and more attention in the world, with where a lot of people are getting diagnosed with autoimmune disorders. And I think it's really important, especially right now during this time when people are have a heightened awareness about, oh, could I get sick? You know, is my immune system strong? Things like that. So let's take a moment to introduce ourselves. Go ahead, Daisy, introduce yourself, and I'm going to share out.
All right. I'm Daisy Farrell. I work as a psychic medium and intuitive coach for people that are trying to work on their own abilities. And I also work as a healer. And I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. I think that we are a little choppy.
Yeah.
Let us know if you're having trouble hearing us, guys, because it does look a little choppy this morning. I just clicked on a video and it didn't seem to be working super well. So I am just going to play with it a little bit. So please say hello if you're here so that we kind of know that you can see us and that this transmission is working well. All right. So my name is Laura Mazzotta. Hi, Giselle. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you telling us that you're here. Let us know if you're having any trouble hearing us. So my name is Mazzotta, the Akashic, and I guide coaches, therapists in the space of the Akashic records to really reach a level of ease, energy, and confidence in their practice, not only with themselves, but particularly with their clients, because I found such immense clarity and confidence and freedom in the space of the Akashic records. So Daisy and I got together, I don't know, a handful of months ago, and came together, putting our gifts together. We work really well together and the energy flows so nicely. So let us know if you guys have struggled with chronic illness, whether that's physical illness or mental illness over the years. And if you have any questions about, you know, what your experience has been or what you're experiencing now, or symptoms that are coming up for you. We're obviously not medical doctors. We're not going to be diagnosing anyone today. We're going to be sharing our journeys. We're going to be sharing what we've gone through and the lessons that we've learned and how we've turned this into something that really serves us. So Daisy, do you want to start by sharing your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. So, I mean, I've shared a few things on my mediumship journey and everything. And what's interesting, and especially just recently for me, that's come up is that I was recently just diagnosed with fibromyalgia. So this was only not even a month ago. And it was, I mean, a big relief in a lot of ways. And also it kind of fit this extra piece that I think was missing for a long time for me from my kind of mediumship journey. And it all kind of brought this whole bigger picture into realization for me that I'm actually very thankful for. And it just makes a lot more sense now. But basically, I want to say about 3 years ago, well, so a little before that, I started to have some chronic pain in my hands. And I went to art school. I used my hands a lot. So for a long time, I kind of just brushed it off as arthritis or, you know, whatever it might be, just tendonitis. A lot of people just would say that to me because I'm young, like whatever. It's probably carpal tunnel. But then I did get tested for that and it wasn't. And then I got sent to another doctor and he said that, oh, it looks more like autoimmune to me because your symptoms are kind of weird. And then that kind of started this whole chain of events for me of going to a lot of different doctors and going through a lot of different tests and such. And that was really only actually in the last year that really started. But I was suffering from symptoms much more before that. Really, I wouldn't say I had the pain, but the other symptoms didn't really start altogether until 3 years ago. And around 3 years ago, I was working a full-time job that was very demanding of my time, my energy, everything. And I had also just come out of a very stressful period in my personal life. So I can definitely see how all these kind of coincided with each other. And I started, the main thing was I started to just develop really bad fatigue and really bad brain fog. And then also visual snow is something that I've also had, which apparently I guess can be associated with fibromyalgia, which was interesting to find out as well. But mainly my problem was that, you know, I would be working all the time, and then or like around 10 o'clock in the morning even, and I would have enough sleep. I would make sure I was eating enough. I was drinking enough water. Like I was trying to do all the right things that anyone would tell you to do if you feel tired. And I would just be hit like a bulldozer out of nowhere around 10 in the morning. And I would just feel like I couldn't do anything. And I would just feel like I could not work. I didn't want to be there. And then I would also just go into this intense fog where I just could not focus. I felt like I was like not there at all. And it was very stressful. It caused a lot of anxiety, especially just because I didn't feel physically able to carry out my job. And also like I was so out of it that I couldn't even really work with customers or anything like that. It was just so stressful for me. So for a long time, I tried to just kind of push through it. And that was the interesting thing about this too for me, is that my whole life, I was always this big, like independent person. And I was always just like, I'll just tough through it. And I was just able to always kind of find this extra reserve of strength to just get through kind of really insane circumstances and kind of be okay and do all this stuff. And this was the first time in my whole life that I actually felt like I couldn't do that anymore, which was a big thing for me. And also I think added to the fact that I was so frustrated by it. And it was a different type of tiredness, because often, again, like I was saying, like I could be exhausted sometimes, but like I would still be able to do stuff. So this was different because it was just like this feeling where my whole body was just like, no, like not doing it, can't do it, can't do it. And my pain also started to be much more chronic in my hands, to the point where it became very difficult for me to even write or just do certain things. And obviously working in a bakery too, I mean, didn't help. Obviously when I used my hands more, it definitely made it worse. But what's interesting about this is just that it coincided almost exactly time-wise with my kind of opening up to mediumship. And at the same time, this is when I started to have visitation dreams. I started to open up to all of this other stuff. And I mean, that's definitely not a coincidence. I mean, it's a coincidence for a reason. I definitely see that and know that. They definitely are connected, you know, and it makes sense to me even more so now. But basically, I was opening up to these abilities. And so then work became like this nightmare for me, because it was like, I'd go to work and I would be bombarded and overwhelmed by feelings from spiritual stuff. And then I would also just feel completely depleted and unable to do anything. So then I started to really feel insane. And I started to just leave work really early, like all the time. I would show up late all the time, which is something I would never do. Like I'm very like that, you know, and I just like could not get it together with that. And it just became, I just dreaded going to work. I dreaded doing that. And then after work, I wouldn't be able to do anything else. So this also impacted like my social life, even AA too. Like AA meetings it felt like so much to even just do that after work. Working out, I mean, just basic stuff, you know, that usually wouldn't be such a big deal. So that kind of put me into this big place of isolation and depression, and just being really confused and frustrated and overwhelmed. And my anxiety became really bad. Work became so stressful for me. I couldn't deal with it. And again, I pushed through it for a while. And I want to say like almost 2 years I made it from work when I started to have those symptoms. But then finally, and then that's when I started to open up to my abilities. I was practicing as a medium. And that was the thing, because for a long time I had other healers and, you know, mediums tell me, oh, well, those are all symptoms of you just being a medium. And, oh, those are all symptoms of you just picking up on stuff. And it will go away once you start practicing or once you start doing readings. And I was really hoping that that was the case. And the thing was just that although I did feel better in some ways, but really more maybe just mentally, the physical symptoms did not get better at all, if not worse. I started to get really bad dizziness, really bad vertigo. it just did not get any better. If anything, like I said, it just got kind of worse after opening up to my gifts. And I just started to get really frustrated with that. And that also made me feel completely insane, because I started to I just didn't know, like, is this spirit? Is this physical? Is this in my head? Like, is this something like nutritional? You know, and just like losing it kind of, because there was nothing that was clear enough for me to kind of grasp onto here. And I couldn't really get any answers as far as like what was really going on. So I started to just get really frustrated and trying to go to a lot of different psychics, healers, you know, just to get their opinion on that stuff. And again, a lot of them would say that you're absorbing people's pain, or you're doing, and like maybe like to a certain degree with some stuff, like sure. But that was the other thing too, was like, as I started to develop as a medium, I started to pick up on, you know, when I would feel physical cues from connecting to spirit. And I started to understand the difference though, between when I was getting that from a message or when it was really just my body. And most of the time I was pretty sure it was my body. And I just felt very kind of defeated. And it got to a point finally where that's when I quit my job, because I could not do it. I could not do it. I was physically drained, emotionally drained. I was just done. And that was actually a big relief, and actually a really big deal and a good thing. And again, I see how this served that purpose, because I was meant to leave that job. If I wanted to serve my purpose of being a medium, wasn't going to happen if I stayed there. It was not going to happen. And it was just not, I wasn't meant to be there anymore. And I'm a very I can be very stubborn sometimes, you know, and I don't like to quit or give up or whatever. And obviously the financial security of that was another big factor. But finally I literally had nothing else in me to give to it. And that it was at that time. So that was about a little over a year ago. And that's when I started to see doctors about all this stuff, because again, that's why I just felt like I couldn't work anymore. And I needed more answers. And so since then I have only gone back to work part-time with another job, because again, I just felt that I still could not give myself full-time to a job again. And I didn't want to, because finally when I had that freedom and I started to practice as a medium more, I knew that was what I was supposed to do. But it was just confusing and kind of hard, obviously, going through that as well, because that was like the first time in my life in, oh my God, I mean, I don't know, a long time since I started ever a job that I was not working full time. So it brought up a lot of different things for me that were important though for me to look at and work on and face, you know, the idea of just my ego and worrying about financial stuff, and that, you know, I need to have it all together. I need to be working constantly to feel okay. And it was really, it brought up so many things over and over again, just so many different things that are so vital and were so much needing to be looked at and dealt with in order for not only me to just be a better version of myself, but just to be a better medium for other people, and to really move forward with that. So since then, it's been a long kind of journey with that. But finally, like I said, literally like less than a month ago, I got that diagnosis. And it was honestly, more than anything, it was more of a relief than anything. And it just felt like I'm not crazy, because I just knew something was wrong. I could not let that go. I was just like, I don't care what people are saying, you know, because a lot of people are just like, well, you're complaining, you're overreacting, whatever. People just don't. And that's the thing I know that a lot of people, if anyone's watching with fibromyalgia, can definitely relate to, or even just with any kind of autoimmune, a lot of things like that, people have a really hard time with it, because a lot of doctors, first of all, they don't take it seriously. They think you're just complaining, you're a hypochondriac, whatever. A lot of the times it's very challenging to get people to take you seriously. I can't tell you the amount of doctors I've gone to where they're like, well, probably tendonitis. I'm like, it's not tendonitis. Like, it's not tendonitis. And, oh, well, you know, just drink more water or sleep more. You know, it's like, no, you're not listening. But thanks. And so it was just it was very validating, obviously, to get that diagnosis and to be like, okay, that just brought it all together for me, which is what I was saying before. That's why it was so key and like important as for me to like even go like further, take that next step, kind of. Just that it's coincided for a reason. It's there. I wasn't crazy, you know, and it has its purpose as far as like where my mediumship goes. I mean, they're completely connected, and I see that. So, and just knowing now that I have something now that I can name, I have a name to it, and I can focus on that. And now I can actually really take the time to really honor that. And it's like I have an excuse. I have a reason now. Because I think a lot of times when people are constantly telling you that you're nuts and that it's in your head, you start to not feel safe to even complain or say that you're in pain. Because that was a big thing for me. Like I barely would say that I was in pain all the time. Like, and I mean, I have a very high pain threshold too. So often I just don't talk about it, or I wouldn't bring it up when it was bothering me. But now I've become, even just in those past weeks, like I've become so much more vocal, and I feel that feeling of just being validated and safe, that like, this is real. I can express this. I can say that this is something that I'm actually feeling. And that's very helpful, instead of having to just kind of carry it and be like, no, I'm fine. Obviously it's in my head, you know? So that's basically, where I'm at right now. So
and it really highlights our duality, you know, and the fact that it's really important for us to, you know, that to attend to both the physical human and the spiritual human, that, you know, it isn't either or, and that we have a lot of power and a lot of ability and a lot of magic inside of us to be able to make shifts and changes in our reality. But that, you know, you can go back and forth in this process with just dismissing the physical body to, you know, and it's important because it highlights how important the duality is. Like, it's important that we address our human and deal with what we have there, but it's also very important that we're attendant to our spiritual core as well. And I just want to attend to a couple of these comments.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like put a yes in the comments if you've identified with any of Daisy's story at all, if you see any of that same progression happening for you, or areas of doubt or areas of confusion, and let us know. Just put a yes down, or tell us specifically, you know, what's going on for you. Rebecca is saying here that she was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in 2014. That's when she learned about tapping. Tapping is so phenomenal, particularly for something like fibro, because fibro is very related to pain, neurological pain.
Yeah, right.
And so when we are tapping and we use EFT, we are rewiring our neurological pathways. So what a beautiful skill to know and to be able to use, to be able to rewire these pathways so that they're no longer conditioned to old belief systems, old traumas, things that have happened. And does that mean that we're going to be at 100% capacity physically? Not necessarily, but you're certainly going to be a hell of a lot better, because you're doing your part. You know, you're taking responsibility. I'm going to do something about this, you know, and that was my journey too, is when I was told there is nothing you can do and you're just going to get worse. I was like, yeah, no, I just don't see that. Like, I just didn't see that in the future. So I honor you, Rebecca, for choosing to take that responsibility on and saying, I can do something about this. You know, it's very empowering to be able to do something about it. Do you have anything else to say about that? Because we have a few other comments I was going to throw up.
With tapping, well, I mean, yeah, well, and that's the other thing. I mean, just you were bringing up a lot of stuff too that I mean, it didn't even get into completely. But again, for me, my physical body, because this is something I guess I didn't tap on or, you know, touch on before, but my physical body was always a problem for a long time and for years. So like, I mean, like I dealt with an eating disorder since I was about 12.
Yeah.
And so that was, you know, and I'm in recovery for addiction, and I consider that one of my addictions, but that's probably that's the first one that I consider ever having. And that on top of other physical kind of traumas that I went through, it just kind of built onto all of that. And so my physical body became this entity that was just like, it seemed like a separate object from me for a very long time. And I had a big problem with like disassociation, that kind of stuff. And also just I was never grounded at all. And that was always an issue. Like even when I was developing, like everyone that would see me, they're like, you're really ungrounded. And like, you know, I mean, like, I know, like I'm never really in my body, because it becomes a place that you don't feel safe in anymore. And that's why though, I really almost am thankful for this, because more than probably anything that could have ever happened, because I was really reaching a point even right now where that was coming up over and over again, where it was like, in order for me to move forward, to be a better person, better medium, I need to address the physical problem, and that, you know, that disconnect. And this was just this beautiful kind of gift for me to actually really do that 100% for like the first time in my life.
Well, and I think that's why, I mean, and that this my firm belief that we develop physical illnesses or mental illnesses because it's screaming to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
To find our safety, security, our foundation within our soulful self, you know, and our spiritual self, because when we rely on our physical bodies for a foundation, like solely, that is when a lot of those eating issues can come up for people, eating for comfort, you know. And although that's fine, you know, kind of on the side a little bit here and there, you know, developing a consistent pattern of that being your foundation is just, it's just not reliable because everything is energy, right? Everything is energy. And so we're shifting and changing all the time. So you want to rely on something that's everlasting, right? That's solid, that's going to be infinite. And that's your soul, that's your spiritual self. And that's, I think, you know, that's what Daisy and I have found in this process. And I would not have taken this route of really deep diving and finding this solidarity and this soulful part of me if I didn't have a super serious wake-up call physically to call me to do that. And, you know, that's why our physical bodies really need to be viewed as a tool. You know, they're tools that provide us with information, things we can also transform and use to transform. So that we can see how much power we have to be able to shift and change our physical experience. But there's a lot of components involved in that. So let's attend to Giselle's message here. Both chronic pain with endometriosis for years, had a hysterectomy 16 years ago. So the physical pain isn't bad anymore. But she went through 15 to 20 years of pain and opiate abuse. She's been clean for 9 years. But emotionally just drained for so long. Continue this. She has sleep apnea and celiac. To fight or ignore it, depending on the day. I hear you. The fight or ignore is kind of a back and forth that can happen for sure.
Totally.
She doesn't like her CPAP machine for the. She feels worse with it. It's probably the chronic fatigue is her biggest complaint. So that's really funny because I feel the same way. I have neuropathy, and I think Donna also said that she has neuropathy. I have CVID and autonomic neuropathy. So CVID is called common variable immunodeficiency, and basically means that I just don't have the blood proteins to fight infection. So I do plasma infusions every week, subcutaneously, just in my belly. I do it at home. And, you know, it's interesting because the neuropathy was really damaged from the sepsis, which is what started my journey 4 years ago. So it damaged my neurological system. It started out with just something they call POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardic syndrome, and just turned into like a generalized dysautonomia, which means that my neurological system, particularly my autonomic nervous system, was not operating effectively. So I was having trouble with digestion, with breathing. You know, autonomic really controls all of those natural things that we do. We just do because, you know, and that we don't think about them. We don't have to think about them. You know, they're the unconscious processes. It's like your brain stem, you know, just covering your balance. Like I was literally fully dizzy for 3.5 years, you know, and couldn't walk straight, was very weak. And so the neuropathy is something that I continue to manage. And, you know, I feel there are ups and downs with it, but ultimately, I think that it's a reflection of my sensitivity and how sensitive I am, you know, emotionally. But it wears me down. It makes me very tired. And although the pain bothers me from time to time, it's more of a mild annoyance. I know how to manage the pain now. I have the pain managed. The issue has always been for me the fatigue since I got diagnosed. Oh, Giselle, your daughter has POTS? Crazy. Wow. POTS is, now I have to tell you, I'm going to raise the roof here a little bit for myself because I cured myself of POTS because I was just fucking done with it. I was just so fucking done with it. Literally, because it makes your blood pressure spike and crash, spike and crash, spike and crash. So I was in the ambulance more times than I can even count. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't keep going back to the hospital. Like, this is ridiculous. And so I did some research and I found this facility in Texas that had like a 3-week program where you go there in person and they do a bunch of things. They do biofeedback, they do energy healing, they do all sorts. I mean, the list is endless. And so what I did was they had some resources on their site, and one of them was a chart which Giselle, I can send this to you if you want. I can private message it to you, but it's a chart for using the recumbent bike to kind of stabilize your blood pressure and your pulse. And so it sucked so badly. And I couldn't, because they wanted me to go to cardiac rehab, but I was like, I'm literally not well enough to drive myself to cardiac rehab 3 times a week. Right. And when I think about the copays even for going 3 times a week, it made more sense for me to just buy my own bike. It would have been the same amount of money. So that's what I did. I bought a recumbent bike because it was literally the same amount or less to buy it. And I totally stabilized my blood pressure and my pulse. So now, yes, I have autonomic neuropathy. That's a result of the neurological damage, but I have made progress. I continue to make progress. And I do fully trust that I'm going to be fine one day. I totally trust that. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing that I would say is important when you have a chronic illness, is not to lose the faith, and that's the hard part. Because at the beginning, when I was like, I literally couldn't stand for like probably 3 to 4 months after I had sepsis.
Right.
And every single time something would come back after that, or I would go through the cycle of not feeling well, I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's going to get worse again. I'm going to be in the ambulance. Because I was literally in the ambulance all the time. The number of times I had to call 911. And so for me, like, I now know that when these times are coming, I'm like, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't rattle me. Do I like laying down and feeling in pain? Not necessarily, but I also know that when there's a purpose for it, and I'm hopeful. I'm like, this will go away. It's gone away before, and it's funny with the chronic fatigue in particular, Giselle, the only thing that has given me energy. Now the infusions do give me a little energy, but it usually only lasts for like a day or 2. So they do help. But the number one thing that has helped is the Akashic records. It's the weirdest thing in the world. Like, and for me, when I started, I don't think it's weird anymore because now I'm so used to it. And I'm like, yeah. And people say like, I don't have any energy. I'm like, well, just open your Akashic records. Right. Literally every time. Like I do not like opening the Akashic records at night because when I open them at night, I'm so wired and excited and
I can relate to that. Yep.
Yeah, then I'm like wide awake until 1 o'clock in the morning because I'm just like, woo, this is exciting. I have so much energy. Right. It's amazing. It's absolutely mind-blowing because when I started this whole energy healing thing and looking into alternative methods of healing, I was like, I was super skeptic. I had no idea what it was. But that is the one place that I can say I can consistently, reliably go to that I will feel like $1 million when I leave it. So the more often I go into the records, the better I feel. It's unbelievable. So that's why I want to scream it from the rooftops, because I literally, there were many times that I thought I was not surviving. There were many times that my husband thought I was not surviving and that I was worried about what are my kids going to do without a mother. Many, many times and grief around thinking that was a realistic possibility. Both of us did, and so to be at this point where I'm like, I don't care what it is. I found something that blows my socks off, that makes me feel, and that my husband would say, like, just keep doing it because you're so much better. Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, Giselle, if you ever have a chance or if you've done it already to go into the records or to take, I'll private message you, Giselle. There's lots of different places we can start with the records. There's different options available. So I can tell you, I have a membership group. It's like Akashic Priority, where you can learn how to open your records and use your records on a weekly basis. We meet. There's private sessions, and that one is you can just learn the Akashic records and then use the recording to open yours over and over again, so there's a lot of different options, so we can connect on that for sure. But okay, I just saw your question of how do you help with the fatigue. There you go. There's your answer. Right. Let's throw up another comment here. Sherry says, I have chronic pain due to liver disease that I brought on myself from too much drinking. No one would know, though. So how do you manage your pain, Sherry? Oh, wait, she shows us something else here. Hold on. She has another comment. See how behind we are? Okay. Let's see. Oh, we're really behind. Oh. Sherry says, I've had mental and physical trauma in my life too. Why didn't I awaken then? It took until I was 60. I know about divine timing. Yeah, exactly. Yep. It is. It's not on our time frame. It's not on our time frame. And I've had a lot of mental and physical traumas in my life too, prior to this. Yeah. And so what are your thoughts on that, Daisy? Because I don't want to keep talking everybody's ear off.
I mean, well, again, like I think that, well, and that was the thing that was also really eye-opening for me once I got the diagnosis of fibromyalgia, how intertwined past trauma and all of that was so connected to it, because I was, researching it a lot and learning a lot, again, about the fight or flight mode and how that's a huge contributor to fibromyalgia and illness in general, really, because it doesn't turn off. Like when you're in this state of trauma that happens where you feel like you need to always be in protection mode, it doesn't turn off. And so your hormones, everything gets all out of whack. And, and that makes so much sense for me just because of everything that I dealt with. I'm being in recovery for addiction and everything that happened to me then. And also, I mean, I definitely put my body through a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely should not even be here, so that in itself definitely was a contributor. And again, like, we never, just like you were saying, we never really wake up when we think we're supposed to or we want to. And there's always going to be something about when we wake up, like, why didn't it happen then? Or just always, it's very easy to always kind of compare or kind of see kind of the negative maybe in where we're at. Because I mean, I definitely did that with myself. Even just when I got sober for the first time, I was just so upset with myself in general. Just like, why did I waste all this time? Why did I do this and that? Look at everybody else getting ahead with their life, blah, blah, blah. But eventually I was able to see, no, it's okay. And, it's right for me.
Yeah.
I can't compare that to other people.
Well, and Sherry, I would be really interested to know what it was that kind of launched you in this awakening at 60, because for me, yes, I had a lot of mental and physical trauma prior to getting sepsis. But sepsis was like a life or death, like literally laying my ass out to the point where I could not function at all.
Yep.
And honestly, I attribute that to just my stubborn nature.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And like inability to see it before that. Like, I don't think that I would have fully listened and made this level of change without being fully knocked on my ass, like to the point where I could not function, So I do think I also think like what Daisy was saying, they're all linked, like the traumas are linked. So I think it's also very symbolic. Oh, you spoke to that in an earlier comment. Okay, love. Do that at my brother's death in 2018. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I feel like I started coming around a little bit to being more spiritual and bringing this more into my life when my father passed away. And it definitely was a little bit of a wake up call and a little bit of a mindset shift, but it wasn't enough for me. Yes, I did some shifting, but I needed like a serious smack in the face. And I know that I did. And now, like when I find my coaches, like I have 2 coaches right now. And when I find my coaches, I'm like, I love the compassion and the assistance, but I also need a serious kick in the ass.
Yeah.
I have both. I need to have a coach that is really compassionate towards me, but also kicks me in the ass, because I still need that level of accountability and reminders sometimes to, not all the time, because I've learned a lot and I'm able to do a lot more on my own now. But, I think it's like Daisy was saying, don't question yourself and be hard on yourself. Like, oh, why didn't I get this sooner? But just being thankful that and understanding that it was this particular incident that happened to be tied to whatever needed to be activated within you, right? Like they're tied. So it's like those old traumas that I had, like sexual assault, sexual abuse, and things like that, weren't necessarily tied to what I needed to heal to move forward. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. And also, I mean, thinking about it now, for example, like when I had certain traumas happen to me at that time, if I like woke up then, it just wouldn't have worked because I was nowhere near ready to take on what I was going to take on. I was nowhere close to ready for that at all. So, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me that I needed a solid amount of recovery from my addiction under my belt before I, went into mediumship. And that's, again, how this kind of just coincided with it, because it was like, okay, like you got the recovery down, like you dealt with all of this emotional stuff and all of that. And now, you're ready to kind of tap into that bigger power. But now you need to address the physical self because you're still I can see in a lot of ways how the way I just treated my physical body was still maybe not quote unquote, sober, or like, not healthy. I was in line in a lot of ways mentally, right, and emotionally, but it just, a lot of the stuff that I did to my body and expected of my body and myself, just like with you too, like how you're just saying, like, I am very stubborn. I'm used to and also I think that's the other thing too, is like, I'm used to very extreme circumstances for long periods of time that are not natural or normal, like, at all. And most people would not, but for me, just being through the stuff that I did, I couldn't even see that. Like, I mean, I would know that, oh, like, this is like messed up or whatever, but whatever, I'm used to that, right? I'm gonna just keep going. I can deal with it, no problem. And again, like I was just saying, like, this was just the first time in my life where I could not fight anymore. I couldn't get through it. I couldn't do it. I felt completely hit by a wall. And and it only got worse too for me. I mean, because also the pain started to spread to my knees and feet. So walking and stuff, and getting kind of muscle twitches all over, the dizziness, vertigo, like earache kind of stuff, TMJ, like costochondritis, all kinds of random stuff that, again, just my body being like, what are you doing? And so I see how all this timing is so aligned in the right way. I wouldn't have been able to take care of myself if this happened earlier.
Well, and I also think that there's a difference between taking care of yourself and doing what the buzzword self-care, that are talking about, and making your health and wellness your top full-time priority.
Oh yeah.
There's a big difference between
absolutely. Yeah.
Because, I can honestly say, no, I didn't have the best self-care practices before my dad passed away, and I shifted my mindset a little bit and made some changes in my practice and things that I was doing.
Right.
And there was, okay, well, now I need to schedule in my self-care a little bit more, right?
Right.
Like, all right. So I added it in more. And then it was to the point where, like, no. And I just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I was like, all right, no. I need to actually choose me first. And I need to put in everything that I need to do to take care of my physical body and my mental wellness first. And then I can schedule my clients around that. So that's now what I do, right? Is my schedule is primarily structured. The foundation of it, the scaffolding of it, is my health and wellness.
Yeah.
And you could say, and for a while I was pissed at my body. Daisy and I were talking before about like the stages of grief, when you go through having a chronic illness or chronic pain or something, and feeling like, I was in denial for a while, and I was like, oh, I'm pissed off at my physical body. Like, I'm not happy that this happened to me, and not happy that it kind of betrayed me, is how I felt in some way.
Right.
But that's of course not productive. And really more, it was like, this is just who I am. Like, it's coming to that full acceptance of your wholeness and being able to say, like, I'm a very sensitive person, and it's okay. It serves me. And I just need to work along with it rather than fight it and resist it. Because if I resist it, I'm not going to get anywhere. So I need to embrace that that's part of who I am. And that, you know what, I have the gift of being able to choose. Like, my husband doesn't get the same gift of being able to say, I get to schedule whatever I want and then put stuff to do around it. I get to do that,
Yeah, I know, me too now, which is also just nice. Like, having that diagnosis is such a big part of opening that up for me, because again, I still, like, when I didn't have that, a name to it, like, I felt like I couldn't necessarily have that authority to like really say, no, I need to not do that or do this. And also just being in the past, like, dealing with a lot of codependency problems and people pleasing. That was a big part of my story as well, and so all the more reason why, having that kind of thing in the forefront was just so vital to me, just even working on that more. And also just being a healer, being somebody that works in spiritual work, boundaries and everything are so important. And like, being able to be tapped into, like, when that's too much for us, when we're drained, because I can't be my best. I can't help people when I am not feeling well and I'm not taking care of myself. And so learning that balance and really making that top priority really is just integrated into just being a healer too, and being a spiritual work. It has to be. That's why I love using this work and being a healing business in addition to therapeutic, because when you tune into the different layers, and I want you guys to type in the comments when I list these layers, which layer do you feel is most obvious to you, that you're most in tune with, okay? Because when we tune into layers of how things show up in our reality, how things show up in our physical body, then we start to learn
if you can tune into the real tiny nuances of energy before it turns into an emotion or before it turns into something physical, you can be preventive. And I've been able to be much more preventive because my level of awareness is so much more fine-tuned now that I'm doing the energy work. So these are the layers. It's the physical, something showing up in your physical body, right? You have pain, you have illness, you have discomfort, nausea, tension, whatever, right? Another layer is emotional, that you're feeling a lot of things emotionally. Right. Another, which could be a mental illness, but it could also just be, I have just these waves of anxiety or, something like that. Or is it energetic, And that doesn't just have to be, do I have energy or I don't have energy? It's also that really subtle gut sense that you're getting, like, that just doesn't feel right. I'm not sure why, but it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And then we have the spiritual level of awareness, which is really being able to have a beeline, like straight line right into that spiritual self and being able to say, I can feel and connect to my life's purpose, the greater mission, the lesson, the real lesson that I'm supposed to be learning from this on a soul level to help me to move up. So let me know what level you're tuning into, because the reason I'm asking you to do this and to type this in the comments is because I want you to hold yourselves accountable and get a heightened awareness of how this is showing up now and how you can, the other layers that you can tune into a little bit more specifically and intentionally, so that you can be more preventive and you can work with this more.
Right.
I just want to address the chronic pain comment from Sherry just for a second, because the two things that have helped me, the three things I guess I should say that have helped me the most with chronic pain. One is Epsom salt baths. Epsom salt baths. I can honestly say that when I do that, Giselle, what are you asking, my friend? What do I mean? In terms of the layers. So when you notice that something is bothering you, and something is coming up in your field and you think, oh my gosh, something's off, something's wrong. Okay. And you get a signal. Is that coming up from a physical sensation that you're getting in your body? Is it an emotion that you're feeling? Is it a gut sense like, I just feel something's off? Or is it like a spiritual, it's very clear that I'm kind of out of alignment with my soul's purpose?
Yeah.
That's what I'm referring to there, is to kind of what grabs your attention first, because it's really important for us to accept ourselves as a whole being, to really tune into all of those layers.
Right. So vital to just recovery too. And just managing all of that is just honoring and balancing all of those aspects of the self and knowing that they each have a vital part.
Yes. Exactly. And that they all serve each other.
Yeah. And they're there for you. I mean, they're part of you.
Yeah, exactly. So with the chronic pain, so I can honestly say that taking an Epsom salt bath will definitely help me for about 24 hours. It's usually with my pain. Right. The second thing would be CBD oil, like a hemp-based CBD oil that you can get over the counter. That's been very, very effective for me, but that's something that you definitely need to take consistently, on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yep.
And the other thing with pain in particular, so the energy in particular is through the Akashic Records, and I can help myself through the Akashic Records with the pain as well. But the pain primarily is breath work. Really concentrated, intentional breath work that I've downloaded from the Akashic Records to be able to help me with my specific ailments. But if I really pause and breathe in, and obviously rest is one of them, that's like a given, but really breathing intentionally into that area. It's unbelievable how much I feel like a cooling sensation, which can really ease a lot of that for me. And that balance of physical activity. And for me, when I had the POTS and the orthostatic hypertension and all of that was going on during the autonomic issues, I was not able to really do much exercise at all or much. But it was being able to say, all right, even though I'm laying down, I can move my body, and try to find an opportunity to have a balance between movement and rest. Because, at that point, I ended up using the recumbent bike because I was able to kind of sit back and lay back, but still move, blood pumping and circulating, Okay, so Rebecca says all of the above except spiritual. Okay. Great. So that's good. You're well on your way. Yeah, that you're well on your way. Good for you. Yeah, the layers, your gut usually, Giselle. I really like that. I really like that you're able to tune into your gut right away, because honestly, that's going to be the strongest thing to serve you, because our intuition combines all of it. Our intuition tunes into all of it. So if you get the gut down, you kind of kick the other layers.
Yeah, it's a matter of just trusting it and going with it too. Because often we go against it, like all the time.
Yeah.
We're kind of like, well, that feels wrong, but whatever. You know, and I mean, I think we all do that, you know, but it's such a key. Like I always tell certain people, like, if you just look back on the past, on times that you had a gut feeling about something, was it wrong? The answer is probably going to be no. You know, it's basically always correct. Mm-hmm.
Good. Yeah, good. I just put up Stephanie's comment because she was talking about, and she has a comment later too, where she talks about getting surgery. She woke up after brain surgery, 44 years old, to remove a tumor on her pineal gland. And she discovered that she's a medium during recovery from surgery. Wow. It was a very intense time, and she was an atheist prior to that. So absolutely. And when it comes to the hysterectomy and endometriosis, what kind of work have you done around that? Like, have you tuned into like your sacral chakra? Have you tuned into your root space? Have you tuned into, like for instance, Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. I can even look that up for you now, to really tune into the fact that your body is telling you something, right? Your body is telling you something because it's obviously concentrated in that area, like your root and your sacral. Right. You're getting a message of some sort from your body. And that doesn't mean that once you resolve this message surgically or something like that with your physical body, that, everything goes away and it doesn't mean anything anymore. And it doesn't mean you're gonna be 100% physically, and it doesn't mean you're not gonna be 100% physically. I think what it is it's just, oh, okay, I'm going to listen. I'm going to do something about this. And just because you feel that doesn't mean you're not going to need surgery, but it means that either way, you're getting closer to yourself. It's offering you a greater opportunity for intimacy with yourself. And how beautiful is that to, be able to get closer and closer to that core version of who you are and really start to use your spiritual self as your foundation. Right. And acknowledging that it's telling you something. I mean, there's just power in that itself. Yeah. So, the other thing is, let me know, guys, have you gone through the stages of grief and the things that you've experienced in your life? Because that's something that, when I first got sick, I was in denial, big time in denial. Then I went through bargaining, which was, another phase of grief. And that was really about, no, I don't have this. Yes, I do. No, I don't. That's that back and forth that I think it was Giselle saying, I don't remember who it was that was saying that earlier about, some days you kind of cater to your illness and some days you don't, or some days you believe and some days you don't believe. And I went back and forth for a long time. I went into that phase and I was really pissed off, very pissed off for a while. And I had to go through a lot of like forgiveness work and acceptance and understanding and integration of all of this for sure. Yeah. And it ended up in acceptance. And now I'm at the point where like when I'm knocked down, I'm like, oh great, this is a beautiful opportunity for me to take care of me, and thank you for that. Do you have any thoughts on that? Okay, wait, hold on before you say it. Endometriosis says insecurity, disappointment, and frustration, replacing self-love with sugar, it says. So I don't know if you're replacing self-love with sugar, if you have in the past. And that you tend to blame. So I don't know if that's something that's still in your energy field or if that's something that used to be in your energy field that's just coming out physically now. Because energy moves through our energetic field, our emotional field, then our physical layer. So it's possible that this is something older for you that's coming up now. But the affirmations that go with this are, I am both powerful and desirable. It's wonderful to be a woman. I love myself and I am fulfilled. So, and I just looked up the endometriosis, but there's a whole list of the different parts of the body and different things that can come up, ailments or, dis-ease that can arise in the body that you can look up in the index of You Can Heal Your Life as well. And, just give yourself a little bit more insight. It's not necessarily going to fix everything right away, but it's a start. Yeah. I'm just looking at these comments here right now. Yeah, we're getting a lot. That's good. Are we? Okay. Yes. Okay. Oh, yes, sugar. Yeah. Sugar. Yeah, breath work, Sherry. Yeah, and I like that you're feeling grounded and aligned. And it's important to integrate all of the layers and to be able to say also, I need to, at the same time that I'm grounded, I want to balance with this higher energy that connects me to my higher self as well. you know?
Right. Uniting the two. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, uniting them. Exactly. So can you share, Daisy, like a little frustration and like defeatist mentality and like victim mentality that can come up with this whole
process? Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, so for me, I mean, this has brought up so much stuff for me. Like I did share a little bit before. I mean, and I think even just when I was diagnosed, it brought up a lot of old stuff for me, old feelings that I felt, I had already really worked on a lot. And, which makes sense though, at the same time. I think first off, and one of the first feelings I was thinking was just how, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me. All these things have already happened. I've been through so many different things. Why can't I catch a break? I remember that's just like, and that's when I start going into kind of my like PTSD or like victim mentality of just like, why me? Why do I seem to be, I can never catch a break. There's always a problem, and I know that now, as I just know that that's when I start getting pulled into that older stuff. And that's kind of what it wants, right? It wants you to stay in that place and to feel that you're being targeted, attacked, whatever. But finally, I was able to I've gone through a lot of ups and downs, even just recently with this. I've had days, I think one of the hardest things, which has also been good though, I mean, I've taken on the whole process of kind of assessing my triggers and assessing what's too much, what's too little for me physically. And even just the past few days, like I was having a really great day. I felt good. So I like did all this stuff that I didn't even really think was that much. But then the next like 3 days, I couldn't do anything. And that made me so angry because I think it just further kind of solidified the reality of this and just that, you can't maybe do it all the time. And that's a hard reality to kind of swallow, just that I have so many things that I want to do. I have so much energy with creatively with that stuff. And so to hear or to understand that sometimes you're not going to be able to do that, it's a hard thing to deal with.
And I totally agree. I feel like I've grown into a big girl since I got sick. Like I've matured because I'll get physical sensations. Like even a couple weeks ago, my body was clearly telling me to stop what I was doing. And it was like, I still want to do what I want to do.
Right.
And then I was like knocked down, and it's really being able to learn, you know what? Like my body knows better than my ego, and spirit knows better than my ego. And even though I don't want to listen to it, it's like you're like a petulant child. Like I'll be there and I'll be like, no, but I want to do this.
Yeah, right.
Write my book and I want to go for a run and all this stuff. And that's where true surrender comes in. And that's why I was saying earlier that faith is so critical, because it's like, all right, my body's telling me something. There's obviously something that I am not consciously aware of that, that I'm not paying attention to, and I need to just and pay attention to myself. So Sherry asked a question here. She says, maybe too much grounding. I need to unite more with my higher self. 100%. Yes. Best way to do that. So
there's a lot.
I mean, listen, Sherry, because my answer is always going to be the Akashic records. Because
meditating, meditating. I mean, I think, and that's something that luckily, the first couple of weeks that I was feeling really knocked down, I was not in any kind of state to really embrace it, let's say. I was definitely in a place where I was just, again, like, even like we were talking about this a while ago, but just like kind of grieving the fact that, this is a change. This is something different. But essentially, I mean, even just yesterday, for example, I was having a tough day. I couldn't really do a lot. But I was like, for the first time since this has kind of happened, I decided to meditate and connect with spirit, sit in the power, do some ritual stuff. And it was really, really good and really powerful. And that's what's also, just now that we're home too, it's such a great opportunity because we have all day. You meditate for like 3 hours, right? And you don't have to, but like to just kind of play with different forms of meditation, different times of the day to see like how that changes the way you're feeling, and journaling this kind of experiences is really all really good stuff to do when you're trying to open up that higher self. So I always write down kind of what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, and I can always kind of refer to that later. I also always write down the time of day and what kind of day it is, like before I go into any kind of meditation. Even also like on YouTube, honestly, there's so many guided meditations and even stuff for past lives, Akashic record. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. So even just playing around with a bunch of different variety with that as well, just to kind of understand and try to start to learn your specific way of feeling stuff and connecting. It's all about kind of experimentation, I feel, in the beginning, really.
Yeah, and some people do it creatively. I mean, some people their higher self through drawing, through like mandalas and things like that. So you can certainly do it. It's however you feel into the best way for you to access. Like for you, I would say if you're really appreciating the grounding, the first vision that I got was you meditating outside so that you're able to kind of sit on the ground and connect. Because it's like you can integrate that grounding that you're already doing into the spiritual piece. So for me, like when I envision that, I'm like, all right, so you're sitting on the ground outside, you're grounding, you're connecting to Mother Earth energy. We connect to spiritual energy because Mother Earth is spiritual energy. It has spiritual energy, right? So you're pulling the spiritual from Mother Earth in addition to the Akashic energy, the ether energy from above. And you're able to, even if you feel like, oh, I can't make that jump all the way up here yet. All right, that's fine. So then connect to Mother Earth energy as a spirit. And you can also start that way as well, you know, and kind of play with that. And, you know, Mother Earth energy, the reservoir of Mother Earth energy that exists within us physically is in our heart space. We have like a reservoir of energy there. So it's also meditating with the goal of expanding your heart space, really tuning into that space, gathering your wisdom from that space as well, can be another way to kind of connect to that spiritual energy, but also feel that grounded connection as well.
Oh yeah, and also, I mean, the thing with the heart chakra too, that's so vital and just special about it is just that's the center point between the higher and lower chakras. This is where that's where they meet. Yeah. That is why it is so vital to work on expanding and opening that, because again, that's going to, more than anything probably, it clears that channel for these two aspects to flow with each other. So you could have a strong root chakra, but if you're blocking up kind of like this area here and there's kind of a disconnect, that's a great place to start, just like with what Laura was saying with the heart chakra.
Yeah. I'm just scrolling back to just to make sure that I didn't miss any questions. If you guys have, Rebecca's talking about Kundalini breath work, absolutely. Yeah. You know, and there's so many different kinds of breath work. I mean, I've practiced so many of them. And that's why for me, I try to allow the Akashic records to dictate to me which type of breath work to use at the time, depending on what's going on, because they know a hell of a lot better than I do. So right. That's for my body at that point. Okay. So I think those are the questions. Let us know if anything else is coming through for you guys. Daisy, do you want to share how people can get a hold of you? Or
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my website is daisyfarrellmedium.com. And then I'm just Daisy Farrell Medium on Facebook and Instagram as well. So you can contact me through any of those at all. You can message me on like every single one of those. So feel free to check any of that out if you ever want to connect. I'm happy to help and connect with you.
You're so welcome, Stephanie. She says she didn't even realize how alone she was feeling and hearing and guidance.
Very isolating.
Isolating feeling. I mean, especially when I was in early recovery. I mean, no matter how many people were around me and supporting me, I still felt alone.
Absolutely.
You know, I still felt alone. And the other thing, that's the other thing that the Akashic records have done for me is make me feel like I literally never feel alone anymore. And I literally bought Teal Swan's book. What is it called? Loneliness, or the cure to loneliness, or something like that. And I did a live on it on my personal page a while ago, but yeah. And then it was funny because I hadn't read it. Like I bought it and then I hadn't read it because I'm kind of a collector and I hadn't read it for a while. And so when I actually read it, I was like, oh, well, this is really helpful to share with other people, but I don't have this problem anymore. And I literally never thought I would say that. That was something that I had just kind of resigned myself to. Like, I'm just going to always have this like chronic feeling of emptiness or loneliness, you know? And it's now full. So that's beautiful. So yeah, Stephanie, I would definitely encourage a lot of spiritual connection there, knowing that we're always supported. All we have to do is ask, you know, we always have the
totally.
And that there's other people out there that are experiencing this that you can reach out to, and don't hesitate. Don't be like, oh, I feel bad, or I don't want to bug them. Just do it. You know,
it helps them.
Yes, it does.
Because that's such a thing. And that's also I'll definitely say on that as well, is just that I feel very lucky as well. Just having the background that I did with AA, one of the first things I knew to do when I got my diagnosis was I joined a ton of groups online of fibromyalgia support groups. I connected with as many people as I could because I had already learned that that was such a key to anything like that, of finding that connection, knowing that you're not alone, knowing that you can support one another, and that, you know, you may think that you are, and it's just a matter of looking for it, and you'll find it.
Well, and can I share something about that?
Yeah.
Were you going to say something else before I continue?
Oh, no, go ahead.
When I first joined support groups for CVID and for autoimmune neuropathy, it was good for a little while because it was, especially while I was getting used to infusions, like when I first started infusions and I was going down to New York City for that, and I was feeling like shit all the time. And so I needed, like, it was really helpful to figure out different ways that I could kind of adjust to the infusions in the way that best supported my physical body, and like getting an understanding of other people's stories and stuff. But then I had to cut myself off completely from it because there were too many whiners. Like, there were too many people that were sitting in victim mentality and obviously identified as, this is who I am now. And like, I couldn't, because it felt too negative. And that was when I went through that period of time where I like resisted and rejected the fact that I was ill at all. And then at that point I would do too much and crash on my face. So I was like, okay, well, I can't entirely dismiss it. Right. To accept this at some level. And so now I went back to those groups, and now I just kind of like pop in from time to time. So like you said, you find a way that works for you. You find a way to work with it, and really that's where listening to your gut is really helpful. Okay, does this feel good? Does this make me feel good? And when it starts to not make you feel good, that's when you know that you either need a boundary or you just need to shift things and tweak things a little bit.
Oh yeah, and that's so much like AA too. Just like when you go to meetings and then you find a meeting that like, this didn't make me feel that great. I'm probably not going to go back, you know, and that's fine. Like you're figuring out what support you need, what helps. You know, everybody's going to have a different form of what they need, and even, I mean, that just made me think about too. Like when I just got my diagnosis, I was reading this story about some random medium that got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and then she basically like can't work anymore and like can only barely do anything, and that like horrified me. I was like, oh my god, you know, that's gonna happen to me. And like, so again, sometimes that's not helpful, because I was trying to like read stories to like relate like different mediums that had this. So like, but then I was like, oh my god, no, like I don't want to like think that way. So yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, because that was one of the things that we talked about actually before we started the show, which is that's so normal with chronic illness, which is the what ifs. You know, what happens if, and what I would say, very key here, shifting your mindset from what if to the infinite, unlimited number of possibilities. You always read those stories of, oh, this person was like riddled with cancer, and then all of a sudden they had this like near-death experience, or even didn't, and all of a sudden it was like, boom, they're fabulous. You know, that miracles happen every day. Believing in miracles, having faith. How can you go wrong with that? Because otherwise you're sitting in, and I did that for a while when I first got sepsis, and I kept going in the ambulance over and over again. I was like, what if I die and my kids don't have a mom? What if my husband doesn't have a wife? What if I, you know, am just permanently disabled? What if I can't work anymore? I can't, you know, what if? And that, my friends, is a pattern that is, it's an anxious pattern, no matter what content you're focusing on, no matter where it's coming from. It's an anxious pattern that doesn't serve you. The what ifs allow you to come up with all of these like hypotheses in your mind about what could unfold. Instead, why don't you just envision what you want? Like, just envision what you want.
You know, No, I know. It's just, Right. No, and I just, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off on, no, but I was just thinking how like, I mean, I talk about this even in AA all the time, just how it seems so natural and easy for us to always, when we're like projecting or thinking about what's going to happen, it's always negative. Like it's so easy for us to just think about, well, that's going to go wrong, or that could go. And it's a matter of really when we bring that into our awareness. And I think this is also another way that this is a gift of bringing that more into your awareness, because that can be a very natural thing to kind of do. But then when it's really about your physical health, your body, like that's affecting you even more. You know, so being able to realize that it can just, again, that can help you in so many other aspects of your life too. again, I see this as a gift in some ways, for sure. You know?
And people would ask me how I was feeling, and I'm just a very, like, I don't really have much of a filter. Like, I'm a very open person.
Right.
I tell anybody everything they want to know, whether it's disgusting or gross. Like, I'm like,
right.
Book. But I realized that, you know, like my husband would say, how are you feeling today? And be like, oh, I'm feeling, and he'd be like, what are you feeling? And this was especially earlier on, you know, and I'd be like, oh, I'm feeling this and this and this and this. And then I realized, I'm like, that isn't serving me. Like, I'm not going to do that anymore because I'm paying attention and I'm giving credit to this issue that I don't want, you know? So instead, when people say, how are you doing? I'm like, spiritually, I am phenomenal. I am flying high.
Right.
You know? And being able to focus on what's working. And I'm not lying, you know, I'm not denying that I'm not necessarily feeling great physically at that moment. But what I do immediately now, automatically, is, you know what? I feel amazing. Like, even though my body is throbbing, I feel amazing right now. Like, you know, and finding what works and just using the terminology and your words and your attention very mindfully. And I promise you, because I was a whiner. I was in that whiny group too, you know? And I was like, oh, and this hurts and that hurts. And it's because I also just didn't have faith that it was going to go away. I was still scared that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doomed, you know?
Totally.
And the doctors didn't help because the doctors went from like, oh, you have TMJ to I think you have lymphoma. We need, you know? So, you know, it's like, So it was very hard. They didn't know what was going on. So I didn't really, so it was just for me to figure out, you know, on my own.
Right. Yeah, no, and that's so, again, that's also, I find such a parallel with AA as well, just that when we come in, we're so negative, everything's a problem, everything's attacking us, whatever, and then it's the most, you know, beautiful thing that happens when you get real sobriety is where things could be burning around you, everything could be a mess, but you're like, I'm okay. You know, I trust in this. I know now that things are okay. They have a purpose. They have a reason. And people, because that was like very similar experience, just like from what you were saying, like when I first got sober, how people all around me were like freaking out and everything. And I was kind of like, okay, you know, I'm really like, I'm all right. And everyone was just kind of like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you, you know, flipping out and whatever? And I was like, because it's not, I don't need to. I really don't need to.
Right. And Rebecca's saying here too, like, ask him to ask you, how do you want to feel today? Exactly. That's exactly what I'm referring to. You know, how do I want to feel? And you know what? Every day now I choose how I want to feel. And you know what? If I'm funky, I come pull a card. I access the Akashic record. I do my energy cleansing. I give myself extra TLC. And, you know, my family's conditioned to it at this point too. And it's good for them because kids help more. And then the whole family is able to, because me choosing me also gives my husband space to choose him.
Right.
You know, saying, you know, you got to choose you first. Like, that's not my job. It's your job. You choose you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And everybody gets to see, like, my kids choose them. They get to choose them, you know? And it's really beautiful because at first there was a lot of guilt too involved.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Grief, you know? And realizing, like, it also shows, just like what we're experiencing on a global level right now, the need to be collaborative, to work, to, you know, it takes a village. And it takes a village to not just raise children, but to just be on this planet and to help each other be better people. And so we are all learning from one another and how to come together and help out with the house, help out with the this, the that. So we can, you know, operate collectively. And I feel like it's very helpful for all souls to be able to have that. And then that's why we have this human experience, so that we can learn from each other and do this together.
Right. Totally.
Anyway, Casey and I could literally talk all day.
I know.
So, all right. I will just tell you guys where you can find me. My website is theakashictherapist.com. If you're interested in the Akashic Records, you can schedule an individual session to get one reading. That's just 4 questions. I also have private programs, which are like 3-month coaching packages. So if you're interested in those, I will post the links in the comments here, and we can certainly connect. I'd be happy to and honored to walk you through how to get through this shit, my friends. I mean, when I started this, I felt very overwhelmed because I had no idea who to trust, where to put my money. I was like, who are these random people online? Like, I don't know these people. I don't know who's like a complete farce and who is actually the real deal. You know, and some of it was experimentation, but for the most part, like, I have found a tribe of absolutely phenomenal human beings. I mean, phenomenal souls that are all here really with the highest good in mind, you know, and very heart-centered space. So, you know, I that's why I want to offer this service to people, you know, so they feel like they have a guide to be able to say like, oh, I don't know, what should I do, this or that? And knowing that, you know, there's always a process of experimentation in this process.
Yeah.
Trying things on and seeing what works for you and what doesn't. And it can be really, you know what, just supportive and just easier to relax when you have somebody holding your hand through it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
First time I signed up with a coach and I was just like, thank you, God, for like,
it's a relief.
Yeah, relax into that. And just so, and it's so nurturing, and it gives us the message that we feel like that we're deserving.
Yeah.
We deserve to be taken care of and like guided gently.
Absolutely.
You know? So anyway, all right, continuing to talk. We'll put our links in the comments. We love you guys. Really appreciate your involvement this morning and engagement.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. No, really great comments from everybody. So I know this will be helpful for so many people. So we really appreciate.
Oh, Alex is in denial. Oh, we'll chat about that, my friend.
Yeah, we could do another video on that.
I've totally been there in denial, so we can work it out. All right, guys, you have an awesome day, and we'll see you guys soon.
All right, bye, everyone.